Oh man, I don't know if I can top that introduction. I probably forgot that, but this guy is truly special. Me being from Boston originally, obviously he played with the Celtics, and he's the original NBA prototype guard. Imagine in the '60s, you guys, a 6'4.5" shooting guard. That could shoot it with the best of them. Named one of the NBA's top 50, NCCU great as well, known as Mr. Clutch, and also a Hall of Famer. But the most amazing thing about this guy is that he's second all time with 10 NBA championships, man. Y'all welcome to the David Glenn Show, Mr. Sam Jones. How you doing, big time?
Coach Moton, how are you? Congratulations on your past season.
Man.
Just truly a great run, and to be the first, man, that means a whole lot.
Man, look, I'm humble for you to even say that, man. Let me just tell you that thank you for everything that you've done for me, man. You've been an inspiration in so many ways, and I love you, man. You're the best, and my kids have never forgotten the talk that you came in at Bethune-Cookman and said, man. So I love you, man. Thank you so much, man. I'm humbled and honored, I'm just
sitting back here, Coach, hoping that you're going to have a great recruiting year. I've been reading the paper about some kids who are supposed to transfer or something like that.
Yeah.
Hopefully, Mrs. McCree can help you get those kids in school, and we look forward. And see, that's the bad part. When you have a great year, they look for something even better. I don't know if you can get much better. But I just hope Mrs. McCree and the athletic people can help you get what you need to continue your success.
They have. She's been great, man, and Chancellor's been great, so they wonderful. But enough about me, man. I'm not the Hall of Fame. I don't have 10 championship rings and all this. Look, man, Sam, I always wanted to ask you this, and I'll let Chris and Hayes chime in, but I just always wanted to ask, unlike the stars of the day, you didn't have a basketball example on television because it was the 50s. So I was always curious to know who were your role models at that time, because in the household there weren't even TV. So can you tell us who your role models were?
It's amazing that you're younger than I am. Certainly we didn't have TV, but we did have radio.
Right.
And one of the big things on radio was the champion of the boxing ring, Joe Louis.
All right.
And so many of us remember Joe Louis from staying up late at night and listening to his bouts and his comebacks when he lost to Max Smelling, which you would not remember. And he came back and won that championship, and he stayed like that for many, many years as the heavyweight champion of the world. And this is the person that we sort of looked up to.
Wow. That's when the heavyweight champion of the world had some value. Like, he was the man in the United States. Like, it don't mean anything now, but that back then, I really get that, man. So that's good. Chris?
It's so far away from basketball, but we still played our sports. Coming up, it was basketball, baseball, and football. Those were our three main sports that we participated in.
Wow.
Well, Sam, here's my question. What did you end up doing, or what do you do with your championship rings? You can wear one. You can go 2 weeks.
I actually wear my wedding band. I've been married to the same lady who graduated with me from North Carolina Central. In 1957, we got married before I went to the Celtics, and we've been together ever since.
Wow. Now, Sam, you look on TV nowadays and you have, this NBA combine, and you have guys just running and jumping, and everyone is invited, to Chicago. But in 1957, if I'm not mistaken, that's the year that the University of North Carolina went 32-0, and they defeated Wilt Chamberlain, Kansas team in the national championship. And they had a different professional organizations in basketball particularly had a different way of recruiting and finding out about guys. Can you tell us the story how Red Auerbach pretty much discovered you? I just think that's interesting.
Well, back in those days, the NBA did not have scouts, and they relied on former players to do their scouting, and some of those players were coaches. And one of the coaches in the ACC happened to come from Wake Forest by the name of Bones McKinney.
Mm-hmm.
So this is what I hear. That in 1957, and you're right, UNC won in triple overtime against Kansas. But in 1957, Red called Bones McKinney, who was at Wake Forest, and asked him who was the best player in the state of North Carolina.
Mm-hmm.
And Bones McKinney says, well, there's a black player over at North Carolina College at that particular time that was the best player in the state.
Mm.
And well, naturally, Red had never heard of Sam Jones.
Wow.
And probably of North Carolina College.
Wow. Wow.
But anyway, as the conversation goes, he hung up. And 2 weeks later, he called back Bones McKinney, and he asked Bones, he says, you got North Carolina State, you got Wake Forest, you got Duke University, and you got the University of North Carolina, who's just won the NCAA championship. And they had on there Liddy Rosenbluth, who was one of the leading scorers in the country. And he says, I need to draft a player, number one. Who would you draft?
Wow.
And Bones McKinney says, well, Red, I told you 2 weeks ago that the best player in the state of North Carolina is the kid at North Carolina College by the name of Sam Jones. And just on that recommendation from Bones McKinney, it was the first time in any sports, football, basketball, baseball, that a player had been drafted number one in any sport.
Mm. Wow.
From a historical black college or universities in the United States.
Wow.
And so I became that player, and it was amazing. I didn't know that the first rounds made the team.
and 10 NBA championships
no
later.
big thing like going up on stage and getting a cap of the leprechaun when they introduced you. There was no fanfare back in those days.
Wow.
You just got drafted. You found out. In fact, I found out I was drafted by the Celtics from people on campus before I even knew I was a member of the Celtics.
So no pre-draft party on campus then, huh?
Oh, no pre-draft party.
The Sam Jones draft party didn't happen.
Maybe we should host one.
The Sam Jones draft party wasn't popping back then. I get it.
No, I had so many people. I mean, these are people that I went to school with North Carolina College with. I had so many telling me, man, you're not going to make it. Do you know that there's so many more players that's greater than you?
Wow.
And these are my friends. These
Yeah.
guys I've been around for 4 years. And they are saying, they're giving me all this negative feedback.
Wow.
I said, listen, at least I got an opportunity.
That's all.
They should have made a
That's all I
futures bet
need.
on
I
you,
wanted
Sam.
that opportunity.
Mr. Jones, Hayes Permar, the producer here, I was doing some of my summer beach reading, and they happened to actually coincide with two of the people you were just talking about. One is a great book on Bones McKinney that's out right now that tells the exact story that you did. And the other was, I think it was the best American sports writing from 2007. And I think Michael Wilbon wrote a piece on Red Auerbach. And he's one of the guys that you mentioned. And just having read that piece recently and having the opportunity to ask you here, I just got to ask you, generally speaking, have you seen anything or anyone in sports like him since Red Auerbach, since obviously you had an up-close and personal look at him?
Well, the closest that I can come to is maybe the coach for the Spurs.
Pop.
Yep.
You look at his demeanor, and it reminds me a lot of Red Auerbach. And you look at the way he built a team, and I say a team. In fact, I'm not going to gloat about this, but I picked San Antonio to win in 6 games, even though they did it in 5. And the reason I did so, not because they had the best players, but I thought they had the best team.
Right.
And they played as a team, and they did what they were supposed to do without all the fanfare. And I'm going to admit that, as far as I'm concerned, in this era, LeBron James is the best player in the NBA. I don't care if people don't like him.
Right.
He is still the best player in the NBA.
I agree.
I would pay to see him play.
Well, are you and Coach Moton trying to get him on the Celtics? Y'all making a play?
Boy, we need so much help. We need so much help. I don't even know if LeBron can help himself, to tell you the truth.
Chris, go ahead.
Sam, this is what I wanted people to know, because I know this story, and the average listener does not know this at all. And what people don't understand, and I know it because I'm originally from Boston, in a place called Roxbury. And I told someone the other day, the Fab Five at Michigan doesn't happen if it's not for Sam Jones. And they looked at me like, what are you talking about? they just didn't know. So I was like, listen, man, Sam Jones from North Carolina Central and from the Celtics was responsible for the Fab Five, and they still didn't get it. And what I want people to know is there was a young man in Boston at that time, in Roxbury, that was the first person from our neighborhood to really escape and become something by the name of Jimmy Walker. And you took that young man.
LeVelle, I don't want to cut you off, but there were several people. Spider Bennett, I don't know if you remember a kid by the name of Spider Bennett, but his nephew is now the player personnel director for Sacramento.
Mm-hmm.
And I cannot think of his name, but I took 4 kids. I took a kid by the name of Sam Dowdy, Spider Bennett, Jimmy Walker, and I got them together with family and said, listen, where are you going to school? They were going to Boston Trade School, which was not a really good school to go to college. I said, listen, I have spoken with my wife, and if you and your mother would like to take a trip to Laurinburg Institute, where I think you would be great and can get away from this city, I think you'll be better. You'll be a better person. You're a great person as you are right now, but you could be better. And they went down and visited that summer, and they decided they would go. And so my wife and I decided to support Jimmy through school. And when he graduated, he came to, I lived in Sharon, Massachusetts. I had lived in Roxbury for 2 years.
Mm-hmm.
I found out I was going to be with the Celtics. I said, I better buy a house.
You better get out of there.
I didn't want to pay rent. But anyway, he came to me and says, where would you like for me to go to school? And I said, well, naturally, I wanted him to go to a historical black college, but he was one of the best players in the nation. And so he decided he would stay at home, and he went to Providence.
Right.
And the number he chose was number 24.
Yep.
And that was because of me.
Right.
And he was the number 1 draft choice in 1967.
In front of Earl the Pearl folks.
In front of everybody.
Right.
Earl the Pearl was
in front of Earl the Pearl folks.
To be drafted from Winston-Salem, North Carolina.
Right.
And so, and I felt that, this is some years later, but I felt that because of what happened to me, and I'll go back before Earl the Pearl, there was a kid named Cleo Hill who went to Winston-Salem, who was also drafted number 1. And I'm going to tell you, Coach Moton, this kid could play.
I seen tape, man.
And he was blackballed.
Yeah.
His coach was fired because his coach started him. And the owners and the players didn't want him to start because he was getting too much publicity. But they were winning.
Wow.
And so the coach refused to sit him on the bench, so they fired the coach and set Cleo on the bench, and nobody ever picked him up. And I really thought the league blackballed him in some ways like they did Kurt Flood in baseball when he decided that he shouldn't be a slave and he wanted free agency.
Wow.
And so these sort of things do happen. And Jimmy went on to become a great player with Detroit. He was drafted number 1 by Detroit.
Right.
And he is the father of Jalen Rose.
The father of Jalen Rose. And a lot of people just did not know that.
This is interesting. You should bring this up because I've sent out some information. Jalen really doesn't know his father.
Right.
And doesn't know what type of person
he
his
was.
father is or was.
Absolutely.
And I sent out some information that I want this kid to get in touch with me, this young man.
Sam, I'll get in touch with Jalen, and I'll have him give you a call because I just think that's critical. I think that's critical.
I would love to speak with that person and let him know about his father.
Absolutely, man. We got time for one more. Sam, I would say this. As a legend, as a Hall of Famer, your opinion is not a barbershop opinion. I wanted to know, because I always felt like you didn't get the credit you deserve. I always felt like, yeah, Havlicek deflected the ball, but you stole the ball. But that's just my humble opinion. But,
no, it's not. No.
but for the sake of time, I just want to know, if you had five players, if you had 5 players to take with you in an all-time basketball greatest game ever to win one game, who would you take? Who is your point guard?
My point guard?
Yes, sir.
5 players?
Yeah, 5 players.
No, I'm not going over that. You see, I'm not going to do this. I'm not going to do this. Because everybody I played with, when you play 12 years, go to 11 NBA Finals, go to 12 Eastern Division Finals. Every year that you played, you went to the Eastern Division Finals. All but 1 year, you didn't go to the NBA Finals. All but 2 years of the 11 all but 1 year of the 11 that you went to the finals, you won 10 of them. I'm gonna pick everybody on my team.
You could.
I would.
You certainly could.
I'm gonna tell you right now, I am not going against it. I'll pick my coach to be the coach. But right now, people, everybody are great in their eras. Some people don't know what it takes to be number one, the best player. Who is the best player that ever played in the NBA? Oh my gosh, Bill Russell.
Right.
If you go on statistics of winning championships,
yep.
Bill Russell, 11 championships in 12 years, never will be done by anybody.
Nope.
Mm-mm.
And I'm glad you asked that, Coach. I'm glad you asked that, Coach Moton.
Well, you know, that's my job to pull it out. Look, I ain't a doctor, Sam. I just play one on TV, man.
Now, I wouldn't even be on that team.
Well,
See,
Sam.
my guard. See, I will always love Oscar Robertson.
Right.
For his one season of a triple-double.
Wow.
That is almost unbelievable, almost impossible. But he and Jerry West was my 2 enemies that I hated the most, that after the basketball game, we were still good friends.
That's great. That is. I tell you what, I could listen to Sam talk for hours, Coach. I don't know about you, but Sam, we gotta pay some bills right now. But
I know you have, guys. I appreciate you having me on, and God bless. And Coach Moton, good luck to you.
Hey,
Sam, we love you, man. Take care of yourself, and I see you at the Jordan event on Friday. We'll play some golf and chop it up.
Okay, thank you.
All right, big time.